Hello and welcome to Black Dog Knits. My name is Delaney and I am a knitter based out of Boston, and today I thought I would share with you some of the yarns that I repeatedly find myself wanting to go back to and knit with again. I've been knitting for quite some time now, but I've been knitting garments for probably 2 years. And so I've kind of developed some yarns that I like to use. I knit with a combination of wool yarns or wool blend yarns, as well as acrylic for kids, or even just if I want something that's a little bit easier to take care of. And so I thought I would run through some of the yarns that I have chosen and like to use, and also talk about their price points and what I like about them, or what I maybe don't love about them, even though I use them again and again. And so I'll start out with one that I think a lot of people like, and this is Berroco Ultra Alpaca, which is a 50-50 blend of wool as well as alpaca, as the name would suggest. And the yarn comes in a lot of different colors, and it's quite soft. So this is it close up. As you can see, this is the color avocado, and I made myself as well as my cousin matching Arctic Light sweaters using this yarn. And I've also made another Arctic Light sweater using this yarn in a different color. I believe the color was steel oat. And I really like this yarn because I find it's a good kind of, if you're transitioning from using softer either superwash or acrylic yarns into wanting to use something that's non-superwash. It's kind of a good transition yarn. It's quite soft, and the price point is pretty good. I think I bought this for, at the time it was $14.50, although I've noticed right now currently prices of yarn are going up, and so I think now it's selling for closer to $16 a skein. But in one 100-gram skein of yarn, you get about 200 meters, which I think is a pretty good deal compared to some other yarns, and you have many different choices of yarn colors. One of the things that I don't love about this yarn is when I block it, it does have a very strong sheepy smell, and I will say there are other yarns that I've blocked that when I block them they still have that sheepy smell, but for whatever reason there's something about the smell of this yarn when I block it that I don't love. However, I do find that after I block it and it dries, the smell does go away, so it's kind of more of a temporary inconvenience for me, but that's one of the downsides of this yarn, I would say. Another yarn that I find myself going back to, which I think is probably something that other people also do, is Cascade 220. This is the color Stormcloud Heather, maybe, I think. And this is a yarn that is technically a worsted / Aran weight yarn. Again, you get 200 meters for a 100-gram ball, and you can get this yarn for probably about $11.50 per skein. Although I will say with a lot of these yarns, if they're available on webs, you can get a pretty good discount if you buy enough. And so oftentimes what I do is, if I am buying Cascade 220, which Webs offers many different colors of that yarn, I think maybe all of them, I'm not sure, you're able to get either a 20 or 25% discount depending on if you spend either $60 or $100, I believe. And so this yarn I find is a softer yarn as well. It's 100% wool, and I really like using it for a variety of projects. It looks really nice in just a plain stockinette stitch, but it also really shows off texture well. And so I like to use this yarn for a variety of things. I've made my dad a sweater, or my dad a vest using this yarn, as well as several different sweaters, including the Staffin sweater by the Crayabea for myself, and I made the Beatrix cardigan using this yarn as well. I love the price point of this yarn, as well as the different colors that you can use for it, and I'm actually planning on making myself another sweater with some yarn that's arriving hopefully later today. Kind of transitioning from a wool yarn to an acrylic yarn, this is Lion brand Heartland yarn, and if you've seen anything else that I have recorded, you'll notice that I definitely like to use this yarn. This is a 100% acrylic yarn by Lion brand they come in pretty chunky skeins. I believe this is 142 grams, and within 142 grams of yarn, you're able to get 230 meters. So this is a worsted weight yarn, and it's very soft, easy to wash. You can even throw it in the dryer, and as the name would suggest, a lot of the colorways are heathered, although they do have a couple of tweeds, and I find that the color range is Not quite as, I would say, muted or maybe like earth tones as some of the other wool yarns, but there are quite a few options for the colors. I think it's fun that all the colorways are named after national parks in the United States. And I really like how this yarn holds up. It gets a little fluffier when you wash it, which is nice too, and makes it extra cozy. And so this is a yarn that I find myself circling back to. Lion brand oftentimes has sales, and so you're able to get this for, I think it sells for a little bit over $7 a skein, but oftentimes you can get it on sale, which makes it even more affordable. Along the lines of kid-friendly yarns, this is Knit Pick's Stroll, which is technically a sock yarn that is 75% Superwash Merino combined with 25% nylon. And I actually hadn't used this yarn I hadn't used this yarn until recently when I made a teddy suit for a baby that's on the way, and I had never felt this yarn before. It's so soft. It's a fingering weight yarn, so it's lighter weight, which is nice because I find a lot of the times kid-friendly yarns, especially acrylic yarns, although this is an acrylic, come in heavier weights, and so it's really nice to have something that is kid-friendly, super soft, and that comes in a lighter weight that you can either hold single or you can hold double, and we'll see how it wears, but I would highly recommend this yarn for something for kids, or even if you just want a nice cozy pair of socks. The price point for this yarn, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I will include it on the screen. I remember it being pretty reasonable, and as with Lion brand, as well as having the Webs discount for other yarns, Knit Picks oftentimes is running some sort of promotional sale, either for specific yarns or just site-wide right now since it's Black Friday. And so I think you can get this yarn at a pretty reasonable price point, and because it's a fingering weight yarn, you are able to get quite a bit of yardage for the amount of weight. So for example, this 50-gram skein has 231 yards, and when I made the teddy suit for a newborn, it only used 75 grams of this yarn, and so you can get quite a bit of mileage out of this yarn, and I would highly recommend it. Last but not least certainly is Kelbourne Woolens Scout, which is a 100% wool yarn by this American company, although I will say that I think they have different yarn. I know they have different yarn lines, and some of them are 100% American grown and whatnot. This one is not, and so the price point is about $20 a skein now. It was $18, but they've since raised the prices, I think because of tariffs and also just the cost of everything is going up. But this was a yarn that I started using. I hadn't been using a lot of wool, and so I wanted to start exploring using different types of wool, and I found this, and at the time it was $18, which I thought was a pretty reasonable price for a 100-gram skein of yarn with 250 meters. I've made so many different things with this yarn. They have a lot of really pretty different colors and heathers. This one is navy heather. It actually is the yarn for the sweater that I'm wearing today, and it has a really pretty kind of red in it, which will show up in certain light. And I really like using it for just basic sweaters such as this one, but it also will show stitch definition off nicely. I made the baby on the way also a Staffen sweater kid version, and I thought that the stitch definition showed up really well. And so I would say with this yarn, it's quite soft. I think it's a 50% merino, 50% Corriedale, so it has kind of the structure from the Corriedale, but then the softness from the merino, and I really think it's a nice blend. And so this is another yarn that I continually circle back to if I'm thinking of a project that requires DK weight yarn. This is always one of the yarns that comes to mind if I'm thinking of something for that project. So again, this is Kelbourne Woolens Scout. Highly recommend it, and that is my fifth and probably most favorite yarn of all time. There are a lot of different yarns that I still am trying out. I like to use mohair with some sweaters, although I do find that the cost of using mohair kind of discourages me from using it more often. But if I'm just trying to use a single strand of yarn, these are kind of the yarn, or these are the yarns that I find myself going back to, or that I would like to go back to. If you have any other yarns that you like to use, I know Peer Gynt is very popular. But if you have any other yarns that you like to use, I'd love to hear them. And I hope that you found this video interesting and maybe helpful. And I hope that you have a nice rest of your day and happy knitting.